as I talk about God's call for us to be diligent and to have our life in order, I always like the contrast that you find in New York City. How many people have been in New York City? All right, so if you've been to Rockefeller Plaza, right, you've seen Atlas bearing under the weight of the world, right? This muscle-bound guy, and he's barely able to hold up the world. Now, what's interesting is if you go across the street, how many have been in St. Patrick's Cathedral, right? Across the street from Rockefeller Center. You can go find this little statue of Jesus, and Jesus is not straining, and he's got the whole world in his hand, right? To me, that's the contrast and the opportunity that I see when Jesus talks to those around that are in the world, and he wants to change the world, and he says, hey, come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And the reality is, Jesus is saying, if you're burdened down by your business and you're working 24/7, you can find no rest, maybe you need to let me hold your world, right? In a way where maybe the yoke that you have on you is something that I'm not putting on you. If he's your Lord, he's Lord over everything. And that's one thing we learn in C12 is you have one integrated life under the lordship of Jesus Christ. He doesn't say you run your business and then, just make sure you're at church and doing the things I tell you to do. It's like, no, it's all one life under his lordship. So question for you today is, as you're considering what we're going to talk about, is there a yoke I put on myself, especially related to the business, that's not from the Lord? What does it look like when I take his yoke on me? And to do that, I think you need to look a little deeper, and you need to look at your heart, because Jesus says, I am gentle and lowly in heart. It's one of the few times that Jesus describes his personality, lowly and gentle. Others would say meek and humble in heart. And that gentleness or meekness is really his relationship to the Father, whereas the lowliness or humility is his relationship to mankind. And here Jesus tells us, when we take his yoke on us and find rest for our soul, it will impact in our relationship with God and relationship with one another. And yet, weakness and meekness is not weakness, because Jesus can control everything. He has all power and authority. And so could it be, ask the question, could it be, if I'm struggling with this work-life balance, could it be an issue of the heart? And hopefully that's what we discover today, because one of my life verses is out of Proverbs, which there's a lot of verses about diligence in Proverbs. But one of my life verses is Proverbs 4:23. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life. I like the New Living Translation because it says, guard your heart above all else. Like, it literally means put a guard post around your heart, for it determines the course of your life. I was just reading again this morning in Proverbs 1 that talks about one who goes after riches, it's like there's no boundaries to their heart. And see, I think when we really, honestly, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that you don't struggle with your heart and the boundaries around your heart. And if you allow the love of money to weave into your heart in a way where there's no boundaries, because there's never enough. Like, in a sense, there's always more. There's always a need for more. I don't truly believe you'll ever find rest for your soul, because it's an issue of the heart. That's why Jesus said, where your treasure is, if you want to know where your heart is, look where your treasure's at. What are you thinking about 24/7? If it's the money and the business, it goes back to our hearts. I think we need to be challenged. And here, Solomon's the wisest of us all, and he didn't watch over his heart too well. Said he gave his heart to women, gave his heart to money, and every pleasure they ever had. And read Ecclesiastes, and you'll know where that landed him. But Jesus just says, hey, if you know where your heart's at, just look for your treasure. And keep that in mind as we look at diligence today.